G'day, Ben from Duck Plain Chicken here with the third and final video in the build series of the SD Valkyries set 1. I've got all the pieces gloss coated and now it's time to do panel lining. Now normally if you've watched any of my other videos you'll know that I'm a fan of using enamel paints for panel lines. And in the case of these kits I will be using the accent colour from Tamiya, and I'll be using black, which normally I wouldn't do. I'd sort of go with a grey or something a little bit more subtle, but I kind of think that these are comical, so it kind of makes sense that you would go with more of a more of a comic style by having overemphasised panel lines. Probably seen me do this stuff a million times, but just in case you haven't, it is literally just about using this stuff using capillary action. You just touch the side and you can see how it sort of flows. Some people like to cover their models with this stuff and then they'll go over and clean it up later on with a with a cloth or something. I prefer to dot the panel liner on. It means less mess to clean up later on, and of course it's just a matter of going through and making sure all the panel lines are covered. Doesn't matter if you go make a bit of a mess, you will be going back to clean that up later. The other thing with the Tamiya stuff too is that I find it can get a bit thicker over time. So just the nature of sort of having the bottle open, the thinner might dry up a little bit, so I just add a bit more enamel thinner to it every now and then to keep it nice and thin. The thinner it is, the easier it will flow through the panel lines and the better the capillary action will work. You want to keep it reasonably thin. You don't want to thin it to the point where the pigment becomes so thin that you don't see it in the panel line, so you just got to find that balance. Now this being enamel paint or enamel base paint, I didn't really need to do the gloss coat. I could have done this straight over the lacquer paint, but I find that the gloss does help with the capillary action a bit. But of course the enamel paint won't react with the lacquer underneath, so you can use that to your advantage. There we go, there's one sort of done. As you can see, pretty messy. Lots of bits where I've sort of gone over the lines and excess dabs, but that's alright, that'll clean up later. Way too much on there, that's right. What I'm doing is tilting it down and it helps the panel line flow through the lines better. Again, I'm not covering the surface in it, I'm just dotting it where the panel lines are. Just so that I can pick out those panel line details. This one looks really messy because I've sort of gone a bit overboard in some areas, but again, good thing about this stuff is that we can clean it up later. And that's when your panel lines really sort of come to life. Now the panel lines on these kits are quite deep, so I didn't need to rescribe anything. They are quite pronounced. Sometimes, especially on aircraft kits that I've built in the past, I've found I've had to rescribe panel lines, which is not a lot of fun, to be perfectly honest. Not something I really enjoy doing. Now I'm just going to put this on a clip so it's not lying on my mat. But, now I'm going to put a reasonable amount of panel liner in these bits here because they're actually supposed to be black, and I thought rather than masking them off, it's just going to be easier just to fill them with the panel line accent colour. Might need a couple of coats, I might need to let it dry and then come back a bit later. I really want to use the pen liners to sort of draw out some of the details on the hand there. You may get situations like this where the panel line wash sort of just pools on top and it doesn't actually go down the panel line. And usually what that means is the panel line's been filled with paint or the gloss coat, and so the capillary action can't sort of do its thing. So it's not a big deal there where I've got a delineation between the two colours anyway, but that's usually the cause of that. Now I'm doing all the panel lining before I do the decals and stickers, and the reason for that is just because I haven't got none of the decals or the stickers actually go over panel lines, so I can do all this first, clean it up, and then I'll be doing the markings after I've done the panel line. So I'm going to go through, do all the pieces, let them dry for a good hour or so, and then I'll take you through the process of the cleanup. Time to clean up the mess I made with this panel lining exercise. So in order to clean it up, I use shellite, which is one of the active ingredients in lighter fluid. So you can use this, you can use Zippo fluid, or you can use enamel thinner. Basically anything that's going to thin the enamel panel line wash and remove it. So I've got cotton buds here, I've got the two different types. I've decanted a bit of shellite into a smaller jar. So I'll take a bit of that on a cotton bud, get rid of the excess on a bit of paper towel, and just gently rub across the panel line. You don't have to scrub or anything like that, you're just letting the enamel thinner or shellite, whatever you're using, let that do all the work for you. And we're going across the panel line so that we try not to remove the enamel from the panel line itself. And I'm concentrating on the areas where, so for example, we've got this bit here, you can see that I've gone way overboard, so I'll just work on that spot. And you're left with a relatively clean panel line. And that's it. There's no other secrets, there's no other methodology. That's pretty much the technique I use whenever I do panel lines, regardless of whether I'm using a panel liner I've made from enamel paint or whether I'm using the Tamiya accent colour. And what I'll do is I'll clean these parts up. I'll do one run through or one pass, and then I will leave it for a few hours and I'll come back and have another look at it. And that way I can pick up any of the areas that I've missed or any of the small spots that may remain that I want to get rid of. But I tend to find if I don't do that, if I just go ahead and sort of put a flat coat over the top of it after my first run, there's always bits that I've missed. So it's just a technique that I use, and it's really because maybe sometimes I'm not as thorough as I should be. And so checking over it after it's sort of dried and I've done my initial pass, that helps me pick up any of those areas I've missed. You can sort of see that's cleaned up a lot of it. There's still obviously a bit of work to do on this particular piece, but yeah, it makes a big difference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and clean up all the rest of the pieces for the three kits. And then when I'm at that stage and I've gone through and checked it all, I can start working on the minimal number of stickers and water slide decals I need to apply. Time for some decals. If we look at the canopy of the Strike and also of the Super Valkyrie, both of them have the skull and crossbones motif on them. We also have them on the booster packs here and up here as well. So one of the things I looked at when I first started these kits was to see if I could get any water slide decals at all, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get any of the UN Spacey, the kite logo or whatever it is, the one that's sort of on the wings. I haven't been able to get those at the right size. However, I was able to get the skull and crossbones at different sizes. So I got these from AliExpress, I think it was. And I just did a search for Macross water slide decals, and this one came up. So the good thing about this is I think I've got enough here to do. I'm going to use this size here. You can see I've already cut out a couple. So I'll use this size for the canopies, and I think the size that's slightly smaller I'll be able to use on the booster packs. So yeah. Now I've had two of them soaking for a little bit. I've used a super gloss varnish on both of these canopies, and I've got to make sure I've got them sort of facing the right way. So now it's a matter of just sort of sliding them on, getting them lined up the way I need. So I'm just wicking off any excess water on the paper towel, and I'm going to use a toothpick to try and slide this off. Oh, look at that, I've just noticed. Oh, they're not pre-cut. You mongrel. Oh dear. Okay. So what I'm going to do is put these to the side and let them dry out again. And it looks like what I'll have to do is cut around them as close as I can. I should have tested that before I started filming, but that's alright, we'll get there. So these are not pre-cut at all. Now, unlike stickers, I don't have to be spot on. You know, when I'm doing stickers, I sort of cut really close. But for water slide decals, you've got sort of microsol, which helps to sort of dissolve the carrier film a little bit. So I don't know if there's a little bit of carrier film on the sides. We can soon take care of that. There we go. I reckon that's about as of course see the camera. I reckon it's about as close. So I really need to get. Okay, so I'll just quickly do the other one, and then I can dunk them both in. They seem to have lifted off the carrier film very quickly, so I don't have to wait very long. Lucky it came with some spares. Okay, so we now have two. Oops, of course I've dropped wood everywhere. Dunk these in for a little bit. I'm not holding my breath on the quality of these. They are third-party ones. They're certainly not made by a reputable water slide decal printer, so I don't expect that they will be particularly high quality. But as long as I can get them down and adhered enough without too much silvering, and with I can put a gloss coat on the top of it and hopefully get a clean result. Now, just to show you, most of the stickers on here would actually be fine on the model kits. Like if you put the stickers down and you were good at placement of them, you threw a matte coat over the top, they'd actually work pretty well. But for me, the problematic ones are actually the canopy ones. So let's see if we get, you can see how that's pre-cut, and the problem is where it joins these cuts, it's never perfect. You always get a crease there. So for me, it's basically these canopies that have really cemented the idea of me just doing the painting, because even if I used all these other blue and black stickers here, I wouldn't be able to match the colour perfectly for the canopy side of things just to use the decal there. So It's picky, I know, and I think, you know, the way I'm going, you know, look at the canopy here, it's not even close to the colour that it should be, but it doesn't sort of bother me that much. It's more important that the colour is consistent across the model. Alright, let's see how we're going with these decals. Let's see if they're moving on the backing paper yet. Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, the fact they've come off so quickly sort of doesn't fill me with a lot of hope about the how well these are going to adhere to the surface. Now for me, this is kind of the worst scenario for putting down a decal, just because it's going to be in the dead center of a curved surface, and I always find this quite difficult. So you really just got to eyeball it as best you can. It's not really sticking to the surface that well. So I'm hoping if I put some Macross on it, it will bed down okay across the curve. So I'm just applying some Macross. It's really important just to get it around the edges of the decal so it sort of wicks underneath. And it helps to pull the decal down onto the surface, especially a curved surface. Leave that to dry for a bit and see how we go. Okay, on to the next canopy. Now I've got to say the size is just about spot on. So I'm pretty happy about the size of these decals. It's really just going to be about how well I can place them and how well they actually stick. And if I go back to the other one and try and not hit the camera, try and get them about the same sort of location. Try and get it centered as I can. Now if I hold this one up, you can see the Macross starting to do its thing. It's starting to wrinkle, so that's a good sign. It's just whether it sort of sticks there. So I'll let that dry properly before I put another coat on. And but basically with the decals down, what I can do now is put a gloss coat over the top, and then I'll mask off the canopy. So I want to make sure that my gloss coat that I have on is a really good coat, because I don't want to be putting masking tape over sort of somewhat low quality decals and have them come up later on, because I want to mask the canopy and paint the surrounds, in the case of the blue one, black around the border of the canopy, and then do a matte coat around them. So especially for the black one, it's going to be matte around the border, and of course the canopy itself is going to be gloss, just to give it a bit of contrast in the finish. Time for decals on the boosters. And for the ones that have the skull and crossbones, this is the ones I'll be doing on the boosters. So there's one black for the strike, and then on the blue for the super. So like what I showed for the canopies, I've got these decals and I've actually measured up and gone down a smaller size for the boosters, which match sort of what's on the stickers. Unlike what I did for the canopies, I have pre-cut these out, so I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I've already gone through and just sort of cut them all out. It's a matter of just putting them in the water. Now these things don't take particularly long to lift off the backing paper. Now the other thing that you have to kind of be careful with these is you need to make sure you get the decals up the right way. So the way I tend to remember it is that the boosters are, or the exhausts out the back are pointing up. So that way I've sort of laid them all out. So the left and right ones. and that way I shouldn't get too confused, because yeah, I really want to sort of get this right. So that's the decals all done. The next step is for me to put the stickers on for the Seeker boosters. So these are the stickers that come with it, and unfortunately I was not able to source water slide decal replacements. So what I did was a test, because I thought it was really important that I see how the coats I'm going to put over the top, like the matte coat, how that's going to actually react with the stickers, if there was any sort of dye run or anything like that. So I took a couple of stickers that I wasn't using and I've sprayed a matte coat over the top of them, and they've actually come up really well. I used the red one because normally red dye is really easy to see if it starts running on the white plastic. So and this is sort of after a week. I tried this a week ago, and so it's fine. So I can be confident in knowing that that when I lay down the stickers and then I put down a gloss coat over the top, that they should be okay. So now it's a matter of getting the sticker started. Of course, I haven't quite got it in the right place. Yeah, this is why I hate stickers. I think that's going to have to do. Then just burnish it down really firmly. And that's what it's going to look like. So once I've got a matte coat over that, that should come up just fine. Not as good as a water slide decal, but better than nothing. The good thing too about the eye is you've got these 2 points on either side. So you can sort of line them up with these two panel lines here. So the panel line sort of runs through, so you can kind of line it up, and at least you'll have consistency across the two of them. Right, that one went down a bit better than the last one. There we go. Again, once the matte coat goes on that, that's going to look alright, I think. So that's all the decals and the stickers now done. The next step is for me to throw a matte varnish over everything. I will just again be using the SMS flat clear, and then we can start looking at assembly. Time to start building the super I'm going to start with. But before I do, I just want to quickly talk about my colour choice. And it's probably easier to see if we have a look at the booster packs here. So you can see the light blue, it's not as bright, but I think a lot of that's probably because of the dull cut over the top of it. But the lighter blue, I didn't quite get that right, so it's close, but it's not spot on, that's for sure. But apart from that, I think good to go. The canopies all came up really nice with the matte on the frames around them. And that's probably really noticeable for the blast shield with the decal on it. Definitely glad I went with the decals over the sticker for the canopies. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is essentially building up this guy here. So armour him right up and getting ready for a battle in his Batroid mode. So first of all, we are going to look at just making sure all these joints work okay. Loosen them up a little bit. They've had a few layers of paint on them, so just want to make sure that they do actually they move okay. Alright, now I probably shouldn't really need the instructions, but there's a couple of things that I do want to just confirm. So the main thing I want to confirm is this backpack piece, just to make sure I get that around the right way. So I'll put that on first. Looks like I actually have to snap the wings on first. Alright. Okay, I think everything else will probably be fairly straightforward. I have already snapped the feet in, and they seem to be still a little bit loose sometimes, but I think this one's really good. This one sort of poses really well. Still better than what I did previously, where I used the metal rod. I think that was a bit of an overkill, and I don't think it actually gave me a lot of benefit. In fact, quite the opposite. And these all assemble the same way, so once you've done one, pretty good to do the rest of them. There we go, so the wings will fold up on the backpack to allow it to fold up. It's not ideal, but given the size of these things, it's it's quite impressive, I think. The fact they've got them to be able to not only be reasonably articulated, but also just looking at the fact that they can transform. Now I've just noticed I need to get the wings in the back first. And of course I need to get them around the right way. It is all just a little bit stiff because everything's got a couple of layers of paint on it, but I think it'll be okay. Make sure we get the correct arms on each side. Quite a squat little little guy. Oh, look at that, I've got the wrong one. I must have put that on the wrong stick. There we go. That's better. Yeah, so that came up pretty well, I think. Oops. Bits popping off him all over the place. Alright, we've got these. Put his arms on, that's alright. Okay, what have we got? These. There's not going to be a lot of articulation once he's put together. I think it's going to be pretty tight. Alright, I think that's it apart from his gun, and put his canopy on. Now all those other pieces are in his different modes, but that's pretty much what he looks like. He's got the booster packs on, side armour pieces. That super's good to go. Now because they all assemble in the same way, I'm not going to show the putting together the other ones. What I'll do is I'll go to just straight to the glamour shots where I show them in their different modes. Overall, these kits, to be perfectly honest, they have seriously challenged my sanity. I think, you know, if you are willing to just slap these together and throw some stickers on them, then they're a great sort of weekend build. But if you want to sort of do anything in any detail, these kits have got a lot of issues. And I mean, I'm not new to doing older kits. In fact, I've done quite a number of sort of kits released in the 80s and stuff that was sort of Macross related. But I just found these ones so much cleanup on the parts once I'd sort of put them together. And look, I spent nearly 20 hours sort of each on these, just a little SD thing, just between the parts cleanup, and there was a lot of masking to do. So yep, if you're not too fussed about seams and you want to use the stickers, then it's probably an afternoon, to put them all together, and you're good to go. But I actually think even though it was a pain in the neck, I am glad I went down the path of actually painting these up. I think they will look a lot better on the shelf. So on to the glamour shots, and I will see you in the next build series. Catch you later.